how do I make sure that I'm setting myself up for future success rather than what I think I want most in the future? And it's a very different distinction between those two. You know, you and I were talking about before we started recording just how much you analyze other podcasts and analyze other content creators and what makes them special. When you're doing that, when you're surrounding yourself with that, you can't help but become that average. I mean, we say that all the time, but very few people are actually taking advantage of it. You know, we know proximity is power, but then you look at the average person, you ask them about their dreams, then you ask them who are they spending their time with? And they say they want. Oftentimes when it feels like I'm putting in all of these inputs, but I'm not getting the outputs that I'm looking for, it's because we haven't done a good enough job analyzing what output am I actually optimizing for. And so am I optimizing to grow my audience? Or do I just need to pay the bills right now? So those are two very different inputs. And so maybe I'm doing the inputs for one thing when I really want the outputs for something else. And so being able to, give yourself that outside coaching to go, well, what are the actions that is my day actually optimizing for the thing that matters most to me right now? How do I make sure that I'm setting myself up for future success rather than what I think I want most in the future? And it's a very different distinction between those two.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think for me personally, it's weird. I've never built obviously like a huge audience, and I just see the power of the conversations, and like I just there's a certain energy in the room.
Totally.
And you're like, and it's something I just have a lot of calm to it, because I'm like, you just need to play it out. Like if you're an NBA team trying to win a championship and you have the right culture, you have the right players, you have the right coach, you just need to play out the 82 games. Then you need to play out the 16 games in the playoffs. And that's how I feel about this. I'm like, this is just going to play out.
Totally.
And like, as long as I stay in the right space and my focus is there and the consistency is there, then like, you can't tell me we're not going to be like the biggest podcast, because I just think like, or be the biggest podcast in the genre, because I just think it's going to play out. The second piece of what you spoke about is the thing that the 30-year-old Callum would need to reassure the Callum now about.
Yeah.
Which is the paying the bills, the money-making piece, the business aspect, the monetizing it. That's what I would want to tell myself, like, it worked. Like, you did it. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, we say this all the time. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And you've done a phenomenal job of like, not just surrounding yourself with people that you aspire to be like, but also learning from them. So, you and I were talking about before we started recording, just how much you analyze other podcasts and analyze other content creators and what makes them special. When you're doing that, when you're surrounding yourself with that, you can't help but become that average. I mean, we say that all the time, but very few people are actually taking advantage of it. We know proximity is power, but then you look at the average person, you ask them about their dreams, then you ask them, who are they spending their time with? And they say they want one thing, but then on Friday night, they're just getting drunk and they're not doing the things that they need to do in order to achieve their goals. And I think that that's probably something that is different from you that I've seen from anyone else, is that you truly do live that. You are trying to make sure that proximity is truly power and that you are aligning yourself with who you want to become with the Callum of 30 years old.
You know what? I love it. And I want to throw the question to you, back at you. Ayman 5 years from now, what do you think you would tell yourself?
So what am I telling the Ayman from 5 years ago?
Or what is the Ayman from 5 years from now? What is he telling the Ayman that's sitting before me right now? Like, what is he telling him?
You did it. I think that this life right now is very much an intentional creation. The ability to work with these world-class CEOs and helping them get to 9 figures and beyond from their cell phone. I think that the life that I've created, the ability to work with only CEOs that I really enjoy working with, that my weekly calendar, my monthly calendar, my yearly calendar is 100% exactly what I want to do. Every time I wake up, I am excited about what the day has for me. To me, I think 5 years ago, Ayman is congratulating the Ayman that I've become.
It's interesting, because even when I, even though I know it's not true, but like there's such a tendency to think that other people have it all figured out. And when I've worked with you and I've spoken to you, it seems like you have all the things you just listed. It feels like it's like figured out right now. And so I'm curious. I'm curious for you, like, what when you're awake at night and when your head hits the pillow, or when you just have those quiet moments throughout the day, what is creating the fear? What is creating the doubt? What is the thing that you're like, when you say that the Ayman 5 years from now is saying that you did it, what is it that you did? What is it that you overcame?
One of the most powerful exercises you can run is a thing called anti-goals, which is, what are the things that I hate? How do I craft a life that I would dread? So if you were to create the world's worst day for Column, what would that look like? Like waking up to a screaming alarm, sit in traffic for 2 hours, work for a boss that you hate, for a company that you don't align with. Like, what would be the worst day in the world for you?
You know what's funny? I actually, and I don't want to throw them under the bus, but like with my with my first job, I kind of experienced it.
Yeah.
And I remember having this feeling near the end where, like, I've never felt this in my life. And I've heard people talk about depression and how it feels. Never thought that I would experience that. And I don't actually think I was fully, like, I was depressed. But I remember waking up and just feeling like heavy, like feeling like a stone.
Yeah.
Like you sleep 8 hours, but it feels like you haven't slept at all.
Totally.
And the reason why was, I've realized the thing that gives me the most joy, and it sounds corny, but it's just like being myself, is like being Callum, is feeling that I'm in my element.
Totally.
I love being like differentiated. I love just being me. And I realized that the reason this job brought me to that place was I just started to feel like everyone else. And I was putting more and more work in to try and, because I always want to be like, I'm competitive. Like, I want to be like the best. And I was putting more and more in to try and be this person that they would like, that would thrive in this environment. And it was just getting worse and worse. And so it was this mixture of like failure mixed in with, I was like failing and I was being someone else in the process. And that combination, I was like, this is like hell. Like, this can never occur again.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it set the foundation
Totally.
for where I am at now, because now everything I do is double down on things that are unique to me.
Totally.
Because even what you said about anti-goals, I'm trying to run away from that as much as I'm also
Totally
going towards like the things that inspire me.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, if you take a look at your North Star, you were sitting there holding a compass, and this job was a magnet, and it was pulling you off course, and you recognized it. You know, unhappiness, depression is when your blueprint for what success looks like doesn't match your reality. And what was happening was there was a misalignment between the path that you were on versus the path you knew you were destined to take.